Hello everybody, my name is Requill for anybody who does not know me, and I'd like to welcome you to my video diary as I start the process of, well actually I've been trying, so this isn't the beginning of the process. You're kind of getting in a year later, but starting the process for IVF, and that stands for intro vitro fertilization of an egg or something like that. Basically what they're going to do is pump me full of meds so that I produce a whole bunch of eggs so they can take them out, fertilize them with my husband's sperm, check them to make sure that there's nothing wrong with the babies, and put one embryo back into my uterus so that it can grow into our little baby girl. The reason why I'm doing this is because I just want to be able to document this journey. I don't know how it's going to end. I'm hoping that it ends with me having a cute, healthy baby. I want to say baby girl because that's what I want, but I would feel guilty if we chose the sex of the baby and we don't have any more, and I chose the girl and later on my husband wants a son and he doesn't, get him. But we'll get into that later. Today I want to just kind of give you an overview of the feelings that I've been having going through the process of trying to conceive a child. Me and my husband have been knowing each other since October 2012. We got married September 2015. When we got married, we weren't ready for children then, weren't sure if we even wanted kids. But, our relationship, matured, and we got to that point where we wanted to have little Requills and little Derriches running around the house. We thought it would be easy. My mother had my sister at 39, my grandmother had my uncle at 40. I am 36, but when we started this, it was a couple days before my 34th birthday. So I thought that we would conceive easily. My whole life I've had some issues with my cycle. I would literally go 3 to 6 months without having one. I had a feeling that would probably affect us being able to get pregnant quickly later in life, but since I was always one of those people who wasn't quite sure if they wanted kids, I didn't really, think too much about it. So after the first year of trying with no success, we decided to go see a fertility doctor. This is going to be I'm a couple weeks before, actually a couple months, so in February, my gynecologist put us on a medicine called Clomid so that it would help me ovulate regularly. So we just thought, and so it was a really inexpensive medication, probably like $10 with insurance copay, and we were, very optimistic that, hey, this should do the trick. I'll take these pills and, it'll help me produce an egg and we'll have sex and fertilize and then we'll have this baby. After 4 months of trying that, and even with some months still not ovulating, we had to then go see an actual doctor that specialized in reproduction, not just my regular gynecologist, because pretty much all he could do was prescribe those Clomid pills to help me ovulate. The doctor at that point was Dr. Norhausen. We went through tons of tests to see if they can figure out what was the cause of us not being able to conceive. And we didn't want to wait too late because everybody says, after 35 it's a high risk pregnancy, and I'm about to, at that point I was still 34, but I was getting ready to turn 35, so there was a sense of urgency to the situation now. And let me just tell you about some of these tests that I had to have performed on me. They were not fun by any means. So one test, they pumped some type of dye into my uterus through a catheter. I was at work that day, and they told me to take some Tylenol about 2 hours before my appointment, which I did. I was so consumed with work that I didn't even think about the testing possibly being painful, even though I had to take Tylenol for it. I get there and they insert the catheter, which is uncomfortable, but then they start pumping the fluid into my uterus. So first of all, things are not supposed to go into your uterus. They're supposed to come out. It was a very painful experience. But during that, they found a cyst, which then I had to have surgery to have that removed, and they scraped the inside of my uterus as well. And that in itself, that was my first major surgery, besides having my wisdom teeth pulled out when I was about 20 years old. So after all that, we're just like, we know that we'll be able to get pregnant now. Just, you know, maybe with the Clomid or something like that. Still no success. So we moved on to IUI, which is intrauterine insemination, where basically I take some fertility medication to make me produce eggs, and then they, you know, have my husband ejaculate in the cup, and they put it in me with a turkey baster kind of thing, but it's called a catheter, I'm sure. We did 2.5 cycles, and the reason why I said 2.5 because we had to cancel one because we had scheduled a vacation that interfered with the actual completion of that particular cycle. So the first time, I'm telling all my friends, like, oh yeah, about to get this baby, I can't do this, I can't do that, because we're about to be pregnant. I just knew for sure that this IUI would work. You know, I had no cyst in my uterus. All the tests they ran came back great. I didn't have anything going on, no conditions or anything that should inhibit me from getting pregnant. So I'm like, why not? I knew the chance of me getting pregnant was only about 10 to 20% with IUI, but I was so confident that I was going to be one of those people in that percentile that I told, you know, tons of people. You know, I'm getting text messages the day of, you know, saying prayers for you, things of that nature. And then the 2-week wait came. And before I even took the pregnancy test, I felt as though I was going to get bad news because I started, you know, having some cramps. I tried to be optimistic about it, saying that, well, hey, maybe it can be implementation cramps or something like that, because I just really wanted to believe that we were getting our baby. Took the test, it came back negative. And that was pretty heartbreaking. So nobody really, I mean, it has been 2 years of us trying to conceive a child. And every month, you know, it's the up and down of, are we pregnant, are we not? And obviously, since I have no child, you know, that was a whole lot of no's, a whole lot of negative pregnancy tests, a whole lot of emotional roller coasters in our household, because, you know, I'd be up one moment and then I'd be sad the next. The second IUI cycle, you know, I had leftover. We did it the following month after the first one wasn't successful. All of a sudden, my husband realized he had some vacation days he needed to use, so we booked a cruise and totally forgot that we would need to be present at the doctor's office to, you know, finish the cycle. So even though I'd even started taking the meds, we tried to, you know, time it on our own so maybe it could happen semi-naturally, but that was still unsuccessful. We had a third attempt in March of 2018 because our insurance required us to have 6 documented other ways of trying to conceive before they would allow us to proceed to IVF. So once again, I'm optimistic, hoping that, you know, we'll be successful. So on my first IUI, I produced 2 viable eggs. On my third one, I only produced 1. So that was a little bit of a downer, because it's like, oh, I was really hoping, you know, I took these meds so that I can, you know, have extra eggs to possibly, you know, up my chances of getting pregnant, and I just produced 1. You know, I try to be optimistic, hey, you only need 1 egg. But once again, it was not successful. After that, I just got tired of trying. So I said, let's take a break. Let's try to just live life and see if things happen naturally on its own accord, and not worry about having a child. You know, everybody says when you're not worrying about it or stressing about it, that's when it happened. Granted, we had tried that several times in the process. It's just like, hey, we're just gonna enjoy life, have fun, you know, whatever happens. But it's still always in the back of your mind. You know, you're still hopeful, you're still wishful, you still want that to happen. So like I said, it was some hard times, you know, and as far as, you know, you're watching, you know, friends with, you know, their baby announcements, or, you know, you have friends who have kids that are graduating from high school and they're doing great things. It's like, when am I going to get my baby? You know, it just kind of felt like life was just on pause for a second. But then, and so after March, we decided that we were going to wait until after the summer. Like, hey, let's just have a bomb summer, hanging with friends. This is going to be our last summer, you know, just being kidless, childless. Let's do it up big. Booked 4 vacations, having, you know, a blast. That was the only thing on our agenda this summer. But then some circumstances changed for my husband's job that made us have to move up the whole IVF cycle, because we were now going to be on Cobra, and I wanted to make sure that we kept his insurance, because there's very few insurance companies that cover fertility related treatments. His insurance covered $5,000 towards the actual procedures themselves, and another $5,000 towards the medications, which still in the end of the day is a drop in the bucket for the prices that this is costing us still. If you hear a little pitter patter of feet, that is my dog walking around. I would have her bark to say hi. But anywho, I digress. Where was I at? So, let's see, what month is this? So tomorrow we have our official first appointment that's related to the actual cycle itself. They're going to do an ultrasound of my uterus to make sure that the lining of my walls are thin enough, and they're going to also like check my blood levels and, you know, make us sign some consent forms to say that we understand, you know, the process of what's going to happen, as well as show me how to inject the medicines. So I'm going to do a little backtracking here and let you know how stressful of a decision it was for me to come to do the IVF. So when I said that we had some changes in my husband's job situation, he was laid off from work. So, and he wants to start his own business to become self-employed. The cost of IVF is going to run us about $20,000. So we have one income, mine, that we're going to be working off of to pay all the bills for a while he gets set up. And to step out and spend that type of money on something that is not even a 100% guarantee just terrified me. Because after the disappointment with months of negative pregnancy tests, I know that there's no guarantee that I'll get a baby at the end of my first IVF cycle. I'm praying, I have my fingers crossed, I'm putting out good vibes, energy, hoping that I get that baby, but I know that there's no guarantee. So that amount of money to spend and not knowing where additional income could be possibly coming from in the future, it's pretty scary. So I was at work and I get a phone call from the doctor from the doctor's office regarding the IVF. And they tell me that they're unable to verify my insurance benefits, so we would need to pay $13,300 out of pocket by Friday. This is on Wednesday afternoon that I get this phone call. I contact the insurance company, and since this was going to be our first month on Cobra, even though we would be covered retroactively, until we made payment, it was showing in the system that we weren't covered by the insurance, and they wouldn't change that until we paid. But I couldn't pay because the bill wouldn't generate until the 15th of the month, which was going to be that Sunday. So I'm on the phone begging and pleading with my doctor's office that, hey, can we at least just wait till Monday so that, you know, you can verify my insurance because the payment will be made. And pretty much they're like, no. And my thing was, my first appointment isn't even for 2 weeks. It is 2 weeks before I have any type of doctor's appointments related to this procedure. Why am I pretty much being held hostage? You know, I felt like they know how bad people want a child. I've been working with this doctor for a year, a little bit over a year, to even get to this point. So, I mean, for me to, and I wrestled with, you know, even pushing the button on this whole process. Then to be told there's nothing we can do for you unless we can get that $13,300 by Friday, you know, it definitely put me in a negative headspace of what am I doing? Because that's a large amount of money to have to give somebody, once again, for something that's not guaranteed, when you don't know where your next meal is coming from. I mean, your husband's wasn't know where the next meal is coming from, but you don't know, you know, how rough times are going to get in your household. So after, you know, I called the insurance company, and they pretty much tell me they can't do anything for me either until we make the payment, and we couldn't make the payment until that Monday. I was just stuck. So luckily we just got a reduction of an interest rate, like for a year, on one of our credit cards to like a 6.9% interest rate. So I had them put the money on that. They told me that, you know, whatever insurance paid would be pretty much deducted from my total bill, and then I would only, you know, I wouldn't have to pay that whole amount. So suppose I'm going to get like a refund check at the end of the process, but the end of the process won't even be until the end of September. So I'll be paying interest on money that I didn't even possibly even have to use, which sucks. But well, it gets even worse though when it comes to the money aspect. So on top of the $13,300 that we had to pay 2 weeks in advance to the doctor's office, there's the medications. The medications are expensive as shit for injectables. So when we're doing the IUIs, I had to take injectables as well. Several shots in my stomach over several weeks. But they were lower dosages. So I was taking maybe like 50 milliliters or something per shot. I'm taking 300 milliliters per shot, which is pretty much the whole pen. With the IUI, each pen was probably around, I would say, $325 or so. So we spent about $650 on one of the more expensive meds. We spent probably about $800 total on meds, on medicines for the 3 IUI cycle attempts that we had, not including any surgery fees or office visit fees or procedure fees and that. So I would say probably total, Empress, why are you barking? I would say we probably spent about $3,000 already on IUI attempts. But the medicine for the IVF cost us around $4,000 with insurance covering $5,000 of it. So I was still baffled. Like, so you mean to tell me that this is $9,000 worth of medicine that you're sending me? It's absolutely insane. I had to have the medicine shipped to my job because it needs to be refrigerated so that it doesn't go bad. It is currently 104 degrees in Texas. My husband is out of town, so I was not about to leave $4,000 worth of medication sitting out in the Texas sun that could possibly go bad. So I really had no choice but to have it, because they sent it next day, have it sent to my job because I needed to make sure that I would have it for tomorrow morning. That box was so freaking huge. My assistant, because I had them put on there, someone needed to sign for the package, so she signed for my package, and she comes up like, there's a box that says refrigerate upon receival. So I have to, you know, go out and open the box and put these 2 big ass packages wrapped in foil that says medication and refrigerate in the office refrigerator. My co-workers probably think I have cancer or something. I don't know, that's my chemo medicine. They probably think I'm like on my deathbed sick with the amount of money, with the amount of medication that I had taken up that refrigerator that day. So $4,000 for meds, $13,300 for, the doctor wanted their money. Then another, approximately going to be about $2,500 so that we can have the embryos tested. At first, I was going to skip out of that set because that would have took the doctor's fee down about $2,500 as well. And so overall would have made the process $5,000 cheaper. But knowing that there's some genetic genes that I carry that could possibly, lead to some diseases that I wouldn't want my child to have, I think it's best that we do the embryo screening. Plus, me being over 35, because I'm now 36, there's also a higher chance of, having a child with Down syndrome. So in the grand scheme of things, granted, every life is special and worthy, and I applaud anybody who has a special needs child and takes care of them. You are the real MVP. But if I had the opportunity to bring a healthy child in this world, I think it is worth the extra money to make sure that they're healthy. Plus, we also get to know the identity of the sex, because we can pick if we want a boy or a girl, which takes me back to that earlier comment that I made about possibly picking a little girl and then maybe feeling a little regretful later if we can't conceive another child naturally, and my husband doesn't get a boy. But right now he says he doesn't care and he's fine if we have a girl, but we'll see how that plays itself out. So total, we're looking around $20,000 that we're going to be spending on this IVF cycle. And like I said before, I hope everything works out because I really want a baby. And I'm just trying to, put in my mindset that it's only money. Like the child, is going to give me greater satisfaction than not being $20,000 in debt for a child. And a friend made a Facebook post the other day that kind of put some things in perspective. They had spent $30,000 just to get their child's teeth fixed. And here I am, complaining about $20,000 to bring a whole life into the world. I mean, there's really no comparison. It's like, why was I tripping? Because once I see that smile hold that baby, I know it'll be priceless, worth every penny that I paid and then some. But like I said, this is going to be my video diary just so I can kind of just take you along with the journey that I'm going through. You never know what you're going to get to see here. At first I was kind of hesitant about doing this whole thing about putting my business out here like this, but I realized that there's so many people that may be going through similar situations or just want some insight into the whole process of what has to happen to get to an IVF cycle, and just the mindset of people. I am not a YouTube star, never had any desire to be. I normally am super self-conscious about how I look, and I know, I feel like I'm looking a mess right now. But I watched a couple YouTube videos of just people doing regular stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, like if they can do this, why can't I? I'm like I said, I'm not doing this for fame. I'm just doing this to be informative, and hopefully one day my child could possibly watch this and know all the things mommy had to go through to have them. So when they get out of line, I can be like, bitch, don't you know I paid $20,000 for your ass? You better act right. But continue to tune in, and I'll keep bringing you updates and let you know where I am on the journey. Bye.